So today we are going to be talking about array methods. What are the methods that exist in array that can make working with array fun? First thing we want to talk about is converting array to a string. Converting array to a string. So if you have an array A that has 2 items inside, you want to convert it to a string. You can do a.toString and voila, you see this becomes a string that is concatenated with commas. So when you do this, whatever that you have inside your array will be converted into a string. You see, if you have more items in the list, it will just bring them out as a string. Remember how our array look like when we log it as an array. This is how your array looks like in the terminal. So this is a string version of this array. What if we have number and Boolean inside? It will work the same. It will concatenate all of them. And if we have objects among the list, this is what happens. When you do to a string, it's going to bring this one as an object. So not meaningful to have object in an array that you want to convert into a string. Though it didn't stop it from working, but this is not a useful data that you want to have. All right, so that is that. So toString helps you to convert an array into a string. Join. Now, your toString and join work somewhat similar. So join method join all array elements into a string. Behaves just like toString, but in addition, you can specify the separator. So you see when we do toString, it joins all the string with a comma. Now, join gives us the ability, let's bring back this and let's take out this object because it's not useful. When we do a.join, if we just run join like this, it's going to join it with exactly the way toString would behave. But the beauty of join is that you can define the value to use. Instead of the default comma, you can change it to use column, for example. So you see, all the join are now column separated. You can decide to even join it with another word, say good and space. So if you do this, it's going to put good after each individual. So that is the beauty of join. You can join it with your own delimiter. What of popping and pushing in array. So when you work with array, it is easy to remove and add elements into our array. So when we say popping and pushing, it means removing and adding. So when you say pop, it means to remove an element or value from a list. And when you say push, it means you want to add more value into the list. So let's look at pop first. So your pop method, what it does is to remove the last element from an array. So we are still using the same array we defined above, our A array. So let's say we want to remove that true at the end. So we just do array.pop. Now let's console log our A. We're going to put some text in order to, after pop, and this is before pop. So I want you to pay attention here. So before pop, our array has true included in the list of values. Now look at this, the second console, it logged true. So in other words, pop will return the value that is removed. So in case if you want to use the value, you can easily assign it to a variable, like var x equals to array.pop. So your x will hold the value that was removed. So this true doesn't mean that it's successfully removed. This true is the value that was removed. So for example, if we add more value here and I say G, and we run this code again, oh, sorry, we called pop twice, so this is tricky. Let's comment this one and print our X here, which is the value that was popped. So if we run this again now, you see that this is G. This is G, and it's printed G here. So your X holds the value that was removed from the end of the list. And after the pop, your A list is modified and it does no longer have G anymore. So when you make an array operation like pop, it mutates the initial variable. So you don't have to reassign the A. Remember that our A is defined with a const, so we can't reassign the A, but we can change the values inside the object. So pop is doing just that. And the function that it is doing is to remove the last element in a list. Now, you can call pop multiple times and it will keep removing from the end of the list as many times as you called it. So let's do, for example, you remember when I did console log a pop here, this one will print true because true was the next after G. So if I run this code now, you will see G and true. And if you come to the after pop, you see our list has been reduced. So we have removed G, which is this one, and we have removed the true here, which is this one. And now you are left with this. You can continue doing more pop. The more pop you call, the more your list is getting shorter and the value are being removed. That is what pop does, removing elements from the end of an array. We move on to push. So as pop removes, push add. So push adds an element to the end of an array. We still use our variable created above. So if we say a dot push and we put the value to push, say h. If we console log a, you will notice, let's do before and after again, so you understand how this thing is working. So before push, this is our A. This is the push we made. Now this is after push. After push. So if we run this code, you see, before we push, the last element there is G. After we push an element into it, now the pushed element goes to the end of the list. That is how you add. Remember yesterday when we were discussing about array, I told us that if you want to add an array, if you want to add item to an array, you can pick the index and assign it. So sometimes we don't know how long our list is to get the last index that there's nothing inside to put it. So if we just want to add an item to the end of the list, this is a handy method to use, quickly and easy. Just do push and you pass in the value you want to add as a parameter. Now, it's not only string you can push number, let's say 50. It will also go to the end of the list. You see here, before is G, now we pushed H and 50, and it goes to the end of the list. Remember, just like we do pop many times, you can do push many times. You can also push a Boolean value if we wish. And you see true here and you see false there. Not only that you can push just this value, you can also push an object. So if we push an object name, Lovett, if you push an object, it will go also to the end of the list. This is the object here. This is the object. So every data type we've discussed, you can push into, you can even push a function. Let's say we want to push a function. You see, you can push a function. You see at the end here, you see a function. There's a function there. This is an object. This is a Boolean. This is a number. This is a string. So your list can contain mixed value like that, and you can use push to add them inside. The next one is shifting an element. So we have shifts. So now when you push to the end of the list. Now shift is equivalent to popping, but instead of popping from the last, it is removing from the first. Do you understand? It removed the first item in the list. So you see your pop removes from the last, but shift removed from the first. So if we do the same example that we did using our A again, before shift, and after shifts. So here we can do a.shift. Now your shift does not take parameter just like pop. So it's just going to remove from the beginning of the array. So if we log this, you see before, okay, let's also console log this so you know that it also prints the value that is removed. So if we log this, you see it removes the a, and this is the value a. So we can also assign this into a variable just like our pop. So if we decide to make a variable x and save the value that we are shifting, we can also do that, and we do console.log the variable to tell you that the value is copied into that place. You see it here. You see B is the second one because we are calling shift twice now. So the first shift removes A, the second shift removes B, and you are left with C, D, and the rest. So the same thing, these array methods mutate the array itself. So you don't need to reassign it in order for it to take effect. You can see how long this list, this two has been removed, and you're left with this. We also have UNSHIFT. So UNSHIFT adds a new element to an array at the beginning and unshifts the rest forward. So just like your push, you push to the end, you unshift to the front. So when you call unshift, you are appending an item to the list in the front. And all these ones will move to the back. It will just add to the front. So we'll do the same example again, like we did before. So before unshift and after unshift. So if we call unshift 0, we want to add 0 to the beginning of the list. So we don't need to assign this one because this is an operation like push. So if we do this and we run this code, you'll see that this one starts with A. Now this, after we do the unshift, you can see 0 at the beginning of the list, and A has been moved to position 1. Before it is in position 0, now this one is in position 0, and this one is now position 1. You can also do so many unshifts as many times as you want, and it will be added to the list like that. You see 530, 20. So the first one will be inside. The last one will be the most upfront. So because your unshift will always append to the beginning and push every other thing to the next index. That's why it's called unshift. Maybe it's also worth to mention your unshift. When you do unshift, it also returns value, and the value that it returns is the new length of the array. So if we do unshift 78, if you run this, you get 8, and the previous length of a dot length will probably be 7. You see, the previous is 7. So this one prints 8. So because it has added 1 to the list. So what it does is it will add 1 to the beginning of the list and also return the new length of the list. So in case if you need to use it. You don't need to call .length anymore. You can just assign this to a variable to get the new length of the array. Just, I need to mention that so you know that exists. So when we discussed changing, when we discussed array yesterday, I told us how to change element of an array, right? So let's talk about how you can delete or remove. So changing how to remove from an array, remove or delete an item from an array. So we are going to still be using our a variable up there. So I told us how you can change. So let me just repeat it here. This is our a. Now, if we want to change, say, value in index 1, we can change it. So it is a before, we can change it to any other value. Let's say 90. If we log a again after, this is before, this is after, right? So if we run this, you see a has been changed to 90. This is how you can override a value of an array index. All right. So now what if we want to remove the item totally? Just remove it. We don't want to do anything with it. So one, you can use pop if the item is in the last. You can use shift if the item is at the beginning, right? So what if it's not in the beginning and it's not at the last? You can also use what is called delete. There's a keyword called delete, and you can pass in the array with the index which you want to delete. Let's say we want to delete the item in position 1. This is 0, this is 1. So we want to delete B. So we say position 1. Now let's print this after. You see, this is your B before, this is after. You see this place is saying it is empty item, which means it has been deleted. That space is still there, it does not remove. So in other words, we can still say item 1, but it's going to be undefined. You see, undefined, because the value has been deleted. That item is no longer there. That is why you see empty item here. But the position still exists. So when you use pop or shift, the item is totally removed. That is the difference. But when you use this delete keyword, it deletes the item from the list, but the position is still vacant. So we can still call this and assign it another value again. And when you run this, you see 55 is still in position 1, even though B was removed. So we now reassign value to it. Okay, so that is another way in which you can delete from an array. All right, so the other one is the other method we need to discuss is splice. So splice method can be used to add new item to an array. So you can use it to add new item to an array. Now, you will say, you remember we use push and unshift to add items to the beginning and the end. So now your splice, the first parameter defines the position where new elements should be added. So if you do a.splice, it takes multiple parameters. So the first one is where to start the addition. So if you come to your list, this is the first item is position 0. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Let's assume that we want to add an item between these 3 and 4. We want to put in an item between these 3 and 4. So we are going to tell our splice that we want to start from 0, 1, 2, 3. So from 3. So start from 3. Now, the second parameter defines how many elements should be removed. Now, pay attention, splice is very tricky. Not only that you can use splice to add, you can also use splice to remove. So your second parameter is how many, is not an index this time, is a count. How many do you want to delete? If you don't want to delete any element, let's say we want to just add between this and this. We don't want to remove anything. We just want to add. You have to put 0 in this second parameter. So you're going to say, do not delete any item, right? So now, every other thing that follows now will be things that you need to add into the array. Let's say we want to add mango and orange. Now, it's not only one item you can add multiple. So I can keep putting comma separated and add multiple. But the first two parameters is very important. Where to start, how many to remove, and the things to add. So if I run this now, you see before we have this item. Now after, you see it starts from 3, position 3, and it adds mango and orange. Then it pushes the former position 3 forward. You see it here. Nothing was removed. Now imagine that we want to add this mango and orange, but we want to remove from this 3 to this 4. So we want to tell it to remove 2 items from position 3. It's going to remove 2 items. So if we run this, so this one removes nothing. This one removes 2 items. It removes 2 items from position 3. I want you to take note of that because this is very important. So if you look at this now, we start from position 3. You see here, position 3, we add mango, we add orange. Then you see from here, it's true that continue. It removed those 2 items. So your splice is like 2-edged sword. It can remove and it can add in one operation. So it's starting from position 3, removing 2 items and adding these items inside. So let's talk about margin arrays. Margin. So when we say merge, we mean to join 2 arrays together to make one list. So let's say, remember we have an array up there, A. So let's say we want to make a second array. We want to make second array that contains 1, 2, 3. So we want to merge these two array to give us one giant list. So let's say const C, we want to merge both lists together. So what you do is you pick one of the array, can be the first, can be the second, depending on which one you want to append to which one. You call concat, then you pass in the second, the parameter as the second list. So when you do this, and let's log what our C is, you see that our C contains everything in the first array, including the 1, 2, 3, which is in the second array. So you use concat. So you use concat to join two array or merge two array together. Is it clear? You can also, let's assume we have, let's even make it more fun. Let's say we want D and we want to join C. Remember that C is a joined array, so we want to join C with another array. Say maybe we want to still join it with A. This is also possible. So you see, we are logging C there. Let's also log our D. See, our D will have even longer items. So it will contain everything in C, including everything in A again. So it's a double. So it doesn't matter how many times you can do concat. You can concatenate multiple lists. So let's say we have another list, E, that has banana and mango. So we want to concatenate the three lists. You can say e.concat, want to join A, we want to join A, and we want to also join B. So let's console log this array. Remember, we are joining three arrays, E, A, and B. They are joining together. Let's remove this so you see. So you see that the mango is joined with our A, and this is our B. So the three lists were joined together. So now I want you to take note of something. The concat method does not change the existing array. It will always return new array. That is why I'm assigning this value into a variable. Remember that others that we are doing, we were not reassigning the array or anything, because this one modify the existing array. But concat does not modify the existing array. It will return a new array. And that is why I'm assigning it into a variable to collect the new array. So I want you to take note of that. All right. So now this is us joining three arrays. You can also, instead of doing .concat, you can also pass it in here as a second parameter. So your concat, you can list different arrays that you want to add, and it will do the same thing. You see this? Sorry, I missed one. So you see this mango and the other list with the last list. So this will work the same way as this. So you just choose which format you want to use. The next one is slice. Remember, we have splice. This is splice, and this one is slice. So it's two different things. All right, so slice method slices out a piece of an array into a new array. Remember how when we are doing string method, when we did something like substring, so slice behaves the same similarly. So it will slice an array and create a new array. All right, so let's take an example. So let's continue using our A array above. So let's say we want A.slice 1. If you run this, you see that it generates an array from 1, omitting. Look at our list that we are dealing with here. It omitted 0, position 1. So the first parameter is the position where to start. So remember I told you that we slice an array and get you a new array. So it also works like concat. So you have to assign the new array into a variable. Now, our A remains untouched, you see? But this is your B. This is your B. So you see your A remain untouched, but it creates a new array, which is B, that is not the same size with this one because it's omitting this. So we can decide that we want to create a list from this position. If we know the position, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we want to start from position 4 and make an array. You just put in the index here. So we want to start from index 4 and create an array to the end. So if you see here, you see that this is your A array in full, and this one is extracted and created as a new array. So you can also tell it to start from 1 and end at 4. So it's going to start from position 1 and end at position 4. So if you run this, you'll see that it creates B, C, D. So it starts from here and it ends here. And this is the list that is resultant of that operation. So the first parameter is the starting point. The second parameter is the index where it should end. So in other words, you can generate a list from any position that you want using slice. So I want to mention this clearly. The slice method creates a new array, just like your concat. It does not alter the existing array. It does not alter it. So as I did a.slice, your a you see here remain unchanged. But the array that is returned from slice we assign to b, and that is what we are logging here. And that is the one, that is the new array that is created. So in other words, whenever you're using a slice, you have to use a variable to collect the new array. Just like your concat, when you concat, you have to use a variable to collect the new generated array. All right. I think we are moving. Okay. All right, I think let's end it here. So we continue because of time. We continue tomorrow. There are more fun stuff, fun methods that array provides that we are going to look at tomorrow. Something like sorting and finding minimum and maximum value of an array. We will do all that tomorrow. All right, so today's task. Let's see. Cool. All right, so let's say create 3 lists. List A should be fruits. List B should be numbers. And list C should be food. So that is the 3 lists you need to create. Secondly, merge the 3 lists. Merge the 3 lists and remove. Merge the 3 lists and remove 1 item each from the individual lists. So from the merged 3 lists, generate another list from position position 3 to 7. So when creating your list, utilize the array method, push shift utilize the array method push and UNSHIFT. So from the merge list, generate another list from position 3 and to 7. So use the generated list, which is the 3 to 7. Use that generated list and with the help of Splice, add 2 elements and remove 1 element from position 2. All right, so task 13, create 3 lists. 3 lists, A, B, C. Task 13, create 3 lists, A, B, C. Lists A should be fruits, and B should be numbers, and C should be food. So when you are creating this list, try to use push and UNSHIFT just to understand them. Then merge the 3 lists and remove 1 each from the individual list. So when you merge the 3 lists, remove 1 item from list A, B, C. So from the merged 3 lists, generate another list from position 3 to 7. So once you merge these 3 lists, it will be a huge list. So from there, I want you to extract another list starting from position 3 to 4 to 7. Now use that generated list that you got from this 3 to 7 with the help of Splice. Add 2 elements and remove 1 element from position 2. Remember, we used Splice here. Where is it? See Splice with this help of this. Do the same here. Adding 2 elements and removing 1.